We are about to start our third session, plenary session, and we have Professor Stefano Magagnoli.
It's very difficult.
I think it's, and for me particularly hard. Professor Magagnoli, Stefano is a full professor of history, economic history at Parma University, Department of Economics, and since 2014 is now it is in French, which is even harder for me. A researcher in the Center of Studies of Modern World and Modern and Contemporary Worlds at Bordeaux Montaigne University. In 2009, he was founding member of Food Lab, Center of Research on Food History of University of Parma. Currently, he teaches global history and economic history of Europe and European food at the University of Parma, and he is the head of the Department of Economics and Management since January 2024, and member of teaching board of the MI's PhD program. Today, Professor Stefano will present a conference titled Communists at Table, Food, Militancy and Conviviality at Feste dell'Unità in Italy. So I'm really looking forward to hear you. Please, Professor Stefano, whenever you are ready.
Good afternoon, and thank you to the organizers. I'm very, very happy and honored to be here with you. So this is the first cover. I used the cover that the conference sent us, but I prefer this cover, of course, to introduce my presentation that want to stress and underline the role of food, restaurant, conviviality, and food especially, within the Feste dell'Unità. After I want to explain what exactly are the Feste dell'Unità in Italy, of course. It is a original experience. I want to say immediately that there was something in France, more or less, but the Feste dell'Unità in Italy is very, very important to be underlined. Well, first of all, this presentation. This presentation discusses the use of food in conviviality, identity, and symbolic sharing among the members and activists of the largest communist party in the history of the Western world, the Italian Communist Party. So we focus on the Feste dell'Unità. I translate in festival because in English it is not so easy to understand the meaning of feste, but for the Portuguese and the Spanish people, it's very, very common to use the term feste. So for the Communist Party, for the Italian Communist Party, the festival was a key component of its political strategy, its communications, and its aim of bringing people together. The name Unità, of course, Festa dell'Unità, Unità was also the name of the communist daily newspaper founded by Antonio Gramsci, so it's very important, Festa dell'Unità. We focus on how, with this presentation, food in this context was one of the main elements in building and strengthening identity. In the medium-long term, in spite of the clash between the strong ideological convictions pervading Italian society, food stands and restaurants became a catalyst which attracted the increasing numbers of people to the festivals. In some ways, we can say that the festivals were a very modern political event. They were based on communist activities, but in other respects, they arc back to the peasant tradition of feasting, the farmyard. Master Montanari this morning spoke about fear of hunger. Probably at the very beginning of Feste dell'Unità, after the Second World War, the fear of hunger was one of the components of the restaurant at the Feste dell'Unità. to briefly contextualize this phenomenon, the first Festa dell'Unità took place in Italy in 1947, 2 years after the ending of the Second World War, which also marked the end of the fascism, of course, regime that began with the March of Rome on Rome in 1922. So the ending of the Second World War was very important for our country. And also we must remember that the monarchy was abolished by referendum in 1946. The festival soon became one of the biggest pieces in the larger mosaic of the political religion which the PC, the Communist Party, attempted to construct throughout its history. I want to quote Alberto Moravia, one of the most important Italian writers of the 20th century in Italy, who wrote that the festivals combine three basic ideas: the Catholic feast day, the Soviet, and the market. We noted above that they were a cross between the peasant holiday and feast tradition and a celebration of the new communist activists. In this sense, I totally agree. There are numerous existing studies which have looked at the food, the banquets, and politics. They have, however, dealt mainly with the higher spheres of politics, of course, institutions, notables, and so on. There are, in my opinion, but probably I'm wrong, there are fewer studies on the grassroots of politics. This presentation looks at food, dinners, and activism, and it is still about politics, but in a different context. The research is an ongoing research with some colleagues of the University of Bologna, and we are working especially on the archives of the ex-Communist Party, survivor archives, of course, but also using a lot of visual media, visual sources, photographs, clips, movies, and so some interviews, of course, as well. For contextualizing the role of the importance of Communist Party in Italy, this is the trend of the Communist Party electoral trend between the 1921, when it was founded, and the 1989, when it was vanished. So you can look at more or less between the 25 and the 35%. The 30% was the common level, the average level of consensus. So in this sense, we can understand perfectly how it was so important. It's so important to analyze the Communist Party feasts in this case. We are also working on the advertising of Festa dell'Unità, because it's very, very interesting to analyze how evolved the design and the idea of communicating the Festa nazionale dell'Unità, Festa locale. So it's the local, very, very small, the average, the big national festa. And we are trying to understand also what these smiles signify, of course. So it is a way to try to enter in the mind of people, to understand what they were looking at and what they were thinking of and dreaming probably of. Well, Unità, okay, Festa dell'Unità. From the peasant feast to the true communist feast. Occorre che il fronte delle forze lavoratrici si estenda per ottenere quelle riforme. So everything is talking about socialism, about the social transformation, about a new world that through this feast, of course, the Communist Party said that it was trying to do. Well, another great, in my opinion, key for understanding and analyzing these processes is the gender issue. Because, of course, later we will see that even if it was a movement that was trying to change, of course, the social relationships, the role of women more or less was exactly the same than in the other situation that in all society. So the innovation was just a bit reduced by this traditional approach, the traditional role of women. Well, although the festivals were based on a political project, which was to share the leadership's ideas and positions with party members, there were many opportunities for fun and relaxation, of course. So they were the political feast, the political festival, but not only. It was they were also festival for relaxing, for fun. And the festival always took place outside during summer, and enjoyment by party members was very, very important. The entertainment was intelligent and politically oriented. There were concerts, dancing, theater, as well as cinema, etc., etc. There were restaurants as well as political debate, and the festival was political as well as being a celebration. The festival, more or less, we can say that were a container for many, many ways of speaking and thinking, which were in constant evolution. They were a container, for example, of young people, of partisans who have fought against the Nazi fascism, women fighting to gain new roles in the society, within the families, for example, and the elderly all spoke different languages. This was all in the context of a country governed, you should remember, Italy was governed by the conservative center-right parties, but were in some regions under the Communist Party, the ideal communism of public discourse gave way to concrete policies inspired by real social democracy. Some region in Italy, Emilia-Romagna, Tuscany, and some others, immediately after the Second World War, the Communist Party took the power and still remain now in ruling the regions, of course. Well, women, not young women, all together. We are trying to really reflect on these smiles because they contain a lot of suggestions for our research. Later, we'll come back to Enrico Berlinguer. The festival was also a way to bring together people who were neither party members nor communist voters at all. It was an opportunity for preaching the communist faith through entertainment and gastronomy, as well as political and cultural initiatives. Food, therefore, played a key role in attracting visitors and bringing them closer to the communist world, just as the entertainment and political debates did. But food is a universal language which more often and better than any other form of communication can be heard by everyone. Around these large tables, later we will take a look of the tables of the Festival dell'Unità, social ties were created and strengthened. A sense of belonging was boosted. It reinforced the sense of being together, where the I of the individual ended and the we of the political community began. It was not just a matter of eating together, but of sharing something much deeper. Dancing played a key role at the festival, of course, and was one of the top attractions every time. Dancing was, especially after the war, was an important element that gave structure to the festival, but it was not the only one. The other key element was, we must remember and underline the new, was of course food. Food united people and was meant to share with others. It was particularly important at the time when the difficult post-war period, the fear of hunger, with rationing and deprivation was so fresh in people's memories. People clearly remember the constant nightmare of air raids and German rounds-ups as well as hunger. just finished. After World War II, there was an increase in the quantity and variety of food available. Post-war food difficulties gradually eased, and there was a parallel growth in the importance of the ritual of eating. The festival was an expression of political faith, but it was also a commercial activity. In just a few years, the food sector became one of its main pillars. The various sections, local divisions of the Communist Party, competed with one another to provide enough volunteers and increasingly sound facilities. In this way, the reputation of festival food grew, and by a process of inertia, it has survived to the present day. Okay, over time, the festival, of course, developed and changed and changed structure and shape, and kitchens preparing traditional and artisan dishes started to appear. We can say that for at least the first 20-25 years after the war, they were the celebration of a working class in search of its own dimension in the world of consumerism. As early as 1951, however, a catchy name appeared for the food and drink stands at the Feste dell'Unità in Florence, Villaggio Gastronomico dell'Unità, gastronomic village of unity. It's very, very modern. In 1951, in spite of this attempt to be trendy, however, the main attraction was still local dishes, and this tradition was a reassuring message for visitors. Future research, we are working on this, should deal with the topic of local food traditions. How much space did they have in the Feste dell'Unità? What was the relationship between left-wing culture and the slow food movement, for example? And how was gastro-nationalism linked to the left-wing culture? Pictures of kitchens, of course, pictures of theater, George Australia on the stage of Feste dell'Unità, pictures of music, Casadei, the inventor of the liscio, was on the stage, and young people that more or less autonomously sing balera, the space for dancing, of course, the traditional dance. We are in Bologna, tortellini sempre pronti, tortellini 24/7. This was a characteristic picture. We are in the south of Italy, fish. This is the large table, and this is probably the traditional way to represent the table at the Feste dell'Unità at the very beginning. A large table for everybody. So it was a sort of way to share, to create a community, and so on. Later, the things have been changed deeply. Okay. Food played a key role and was in fact one of the most important aspects. This was first because of its economic significance. Festivals were an important method of self-financing for the party, for the Communist Party. Restaurants and taverns had a strategic function of helping the party budget. Of course, organizing the festival was a big task. Running the restaurants, a great challenge as well. Men and women worked together for days to cook and serve lunch. At the same time, we have some data here, but it was really a great challenge because, for example, in the 1976, the National Festival in Naples, up to 1 million meals were prepared in just two weeks and a half, 1 million meals. That signifies that a lot of volunteers work for free, totally for free for the party. At the same time, eating out at the festival, andare a mangiare alla festa, a phrase always used by members and supporters, had a great identity value. It meant showing you belonged. It meant being there, showing yourself, recognizing each other, and the pleasure of being among peers and comrades of the same political leanings. The table at the festival, the large table, had an immense symbolic and immaterial value. This is, for the non-Italian, the non-Bolognese, it's very, very difficult to tell what they are doing, all these women. They are all together preparing tortellini. All together. It was a political activity. A political activity. Stayed together preparing tortellini for la festa. Okay, another table. The menus. In the early years after the war, festivals provided traditional dishes. But it was important to forget the precariousness and hunger of war. The festival meant forgetting, perhaps only for one short meal time, the food shortages of the past and present. It meant forgetting the hunger of war in the context of a social occasion where at the head of the table sat the future. It was to be in glorious red, of course, a future of equality and socialism. Over time, innovation, ethnic cuisines, and new food trends came on the scene to accompany long-standing local traditions. Even menus, communist festival menus, followed fashions. Cuisine, of course, also enables people to travel by trying the taste of faraway countries. Many socialist countries, for example, would have a stall at the festival, perhaps to remind visitors of the superiority in technology and social terms of Soviet Union over American society, Western society as well. At the food stands, Russian cuisine was greeted with an enthusiasm that was political, but communists, for example, from the Emilia region, tended to remain faithful to their own dishes, perhaps less revolutionary, but certainly more pleasing to the activists' taste buds. However, the Italian restaurant scene changed markedly between the 1970s and the 1990s, and so did menus at the festivals. For many years, the only fixed requirement for the festival food stands was that the food should be cheap, absolutely cheap. It had to be accessible to all, especially to the people who supported the political aims of the Communist Party, workers, students, and especially low-income pensioners. We are collecting hundreds and hundreds of menus of the Festival de l'Unità. It will be a huge and deep work in the future, of course, trying to understand the differences, the grammars, and so on. Well, some recalls of the Italia-Russia stands, Russian-Italian Italy stands with the restaurant, the Russian stands, and so on. Very appreciated, but I think it is supposed because the ideological approach, of course. Here we are thinking of food as rituality, sharing, celebration, and as an element of conviviality and close relationships between individuals. Food and conversation always give rise to emotions, feelings, and reflections. So let us examine the moods and emotions arising at the dinner at the Feste dell'Unità. People would quite simply feel part of a process of social and political change and share this feeling with the others. Sitting at the same table would probably be of the same political opinions, probably, but not sure. Food held together words and thoughts and became activist food. Like all food, it had a great symbolic value. At the festival, that particular food was a concrete instrument of that particular hypothesis of social and political change. Me too, I quote Roland Barthes, who writes that the pleasures of conversation in agreeable company enhance the joys of the table, perhaps even more than the quality and taste of the food. If this is true, we could imagine by extension that food at the festival tasted of class struggle and revolution, since those were the main topics of the animated talk at the table. The festival meant being there, showing oneself, recognizing, we already said that, food became the link between enjoyment and political work, and between free time and political activism. Eating in a highly politicized context makes it more than a material action. It takes on a symbolic value far beyond the material and gastronomic dimension. Eating the same dishes as one comrades festival strengthens the sense of belonging and identity, both collectively and individually. Food became a sort of cement for political activism. On the one hand, it meant conviviality, the matrix of the festival. On the other hand, it was also something that could be shared in the political context with fellow believers. Oh, this is a very, very important question that I want to move on. Serving the people. Serving the people is a celebrated political slogan of Mao Zedong. Was also the motto of the Italian Marxist-Leninist Communist Party, which obtained 0.2% in the 1972 general election. But in any case, I use this concept, this sentence, because I want to present you the high hierarchy of the Communist Party serving at the Festival of Unità. Why? The party leaders who served at tables at the festival were inspired by this motto, serving the people. The higher their level in the party, the harder those in public roles had to work to show commitment to making the festival successful. And so at the festivals, in fact, the hierarchies which very much existed in the Communist Party were made to disappear for some days, of course. This was all in the name of an egalitarianism, which was as false as it was pretentiously put on the display, of course. And it was the food which, more than any other element, flattened the hierarchy of the Communist Party. In more prosaic terms, it was an opportunity for prominent and influential members to present themselves favorably. The mayor would be seen to serve farm workers at their table, and the party secretary to grill sausages for the rank and file members. The intent, of course, was obviously political intent, and the idea was, for example, you can see in these small pictures the past minister of Renzi government from Tuscany, and the other wonderful picture, the past secretary of Democratic Party of some years ago, Enrico Letta, that was a servant at the stand of pizza at the Festa dell'Unità. We have also to underline that many people work for free at the Festival dell'Unità. But many people, many militants, I think, that thought that they were serving the cause of the revolution by grilling a sausage. It was a part of the same political activity, talking, fighting within the industries, fighting within the universities, grilling the sausages, serving the sausages at the table, was the same thing. There was no differences. It was the part of the same political project. The conviction was very, very deep. We have found hundreds of these pictures. People smiling that are, in this case, grilling meat and sausages. Well, the outlines in the pictures of kitchens at the Festival dell'Unità give a clear picture of gender stereotypes. Although they are, of course, gender stereotypes with a red flag, but they are, in any case, stereotypes. On the one hand, there were the females. It was women who made the pasta and the sausages, the sauce to go with it, and who actually served it onto the plates. Hot and sweety as they bent over the pans, they wore typical housewife attire with a kerchief on their head, the hat of the chef. It was just like at home on a Sunday or a family feast day, when a housewife all day would be spent stewing, frying, and simmering food in the kitchen. So there is a coexistence, a correspondence. The role of women in the kitchen, the Feste of Unità, was the same. That the role of women within the traditional family, the traditional order, the traditional system, social system. The red flag was the difference, of course. The males, of course, had a different role in food preparation, with a few honorable exceptions. It was the men who were responsible for grilling the sausages, following, in any case, the not exclusively Italian tradition of the boys being in charge of the BBQ. So, worldwide, the men are responsible for BBQ. The photographs also show the outlines of generational dynamics in what we can call kitchen brigades. There were often 2 or 3 generations of women side by side, and a very clear hierarchy can be traced, as you can see in this picture. The young were to follow the instruction of the old, just as in the peasant order. Many of the photographs, in any case, in fact, show festivals in Emilia-Romagna and Tuscany regions, where traditional agricultural society and traditional cultures prevailed into the 1960s and 70s. So the question of gender stereotypes, it is a key point of this research to understand, of course, what really happened within this party and this activity. Young generation, gender, and so on. Well, in simple terms, the Communist Party and the festivals set out to lead the way in hypothetical transformation of Italian society in the direction of socialism. In certain regions under governance of Communist Party, this dream always seemed to be on the verge of coming true. But as each new day brought the realization that revolution would not take place in the short term, the idea was continuously reborn day after day, year after year. It was perhaps the idea of gradual revolution which most clearly illuminated the road to Neverland, l'isola di Nunca Camas, paese che non c'è, a land that was as imagined as it was undefined. Reality consisted of sausages and homemade pasta. Socialism was portrayed as the final aim of a long process of political construction, where discussion, study, dancing, and food played equal roles. But, as poetically described by Italian chansonnier Giorgio Gaber, the communist activist, after the end of the Soviet utopia, was like a hypothetical seagull, which had no longer had the wish to fly, because the dream had faded. After the dream came the awakening, of course, and at the festivals, food too changed its taste. Communist members and activists began to go on summer holidays, and the festival, food stands and restaurants were slimmed down and entrusted to external managers who had to be paid, external workers that had to be paid. As an example, the 2022 National Festival in Bologna, 2 years ago, offered only 9 restaurants open on a rotating basis. There were fewer volunteers, fewer types of catering, and fewer visitors. This vicious circle has for some years characterized today's festival. Another, only apparently superficial consideration. In the beginning, there were large tables, as you have watched before, symbolizing community, being together. Over time, the tables became smaller. For 2, 4 people, like in a restaurant. Is it the individual who prevails over the masses? Is it only a question, of course. Going to the hand, passing a lot of faces of people who are working at the grill and the sausages. I tried to some minutes of conclusion. For many years, the debates, dances, and food at the Feste dell'Unità festivals were important points in political activism. Those were the days when anything seemed possible, when it even seemed possible to turn the general sense of things upside down. In the mid-1970s, the then National Secretary Enrico Berlinguer, we watched it before, and we can watch here in this picture. By the way, it is now out in these days, a Italian film on the figure of Enrico Berlinguer, politician. I hadn't watched it yet, but I want to do it. In the mid-1970s, the then National Secretary Enrico Berlinguer, architect of the first breakaway from the Soviet Union and of what was called a historic compromise, trying to blend the Christian democratic tradition and the socialist and communist traditions in Italy, seem genuinely convinced of this possibility of historic compromise. The main reason why so many people attend festivals is because one experiences and breadth of atmosphere that is rare to find on other occasions. One breadth and atmosphere of warmth and serenity, of friendship and fraternity. One does not feel alone, isolated, sad, frustrated, as unfortunately happens all too often in the society that surrounds us. He was convinced that the therapeutic effect of Feste dell'Unità. This was the deeper significance of an experience which involved much more than the life and history of a political party, of course, especially considering that the atmosphere of warmth and serenity was made possible by the food, among other things. It was given by the typical traditional dishes, probably the innovative ethnic cuisine, the three-course dinners eaten seated at the restaurant table, as well as the focaccia eaten while looking at the stalls and displays at the festival, the Unità. Obviously, it was all a matter of opinions and ideas, and the festivals were very soon on their twilight path, and the BBQs and grills started slowly to cool down. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Professor Stefano, for this brilliant presentation, this trip to a communist narrative, which is really very curious. And for sure, we still have a couple of minutes for some questions. So if you want to use it to ask something about, please.
I have a question for Professor Magagnoli. Did I say it correctly?
Yeah.
My question comes in light of the state of the Italian cinema industry. I'm not sure if I can call that after the war. And on the eve of many of the new wave movements across many Western countries that were aesthetically disrupting and also politically charged. So you showed us many interesting pictures, but you also mentioned films and clips that you were also analyzing. So my question is, in regards to your sources, did the party have the initiative of recording those festas, those festivals on film, or do you know the names of the photographers that took those pictures? What can you tell us about those films actually, and were they filmed, were they captured with the intention of maybe broadcasting the event and trying to capture the attention of people, trying to make them come to the festivities and be exposed to communist ideals? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. First of all, especially in the 50s and 60s till the 70s, we have found a lot of pictures, traditional pictures. Later, something when the Wakaes appeared, of course, and so when it was possible to record the low-cost system, we began to find something in some section of the Communist Party, but it is not a collection. You can find something in here, there, and so on. Something is available, of course, the official documents in Archivio Gramsci di Roma. Something is there. I think that we have a lot of pictures, but not so much clips. We are also working in case with, probably you know, in Bologna there is a movies. It is a private initiative that collects the clip made by private people. It's very, very interesting because every month something reappears from the past. And so you can find the Super 8 movie of your marriage, the Super 8 of the grandmother, but also something that was charmed within the Festival of Unità. So it is in progress work, of course, because there is no centralized archive of this. So every section all around Italy collected its own archive. So it's a big work, big research.
Thank you very much. I don't know if anyone wants to ask another question, or do you want to? Oh, there is. Okay.
Thank you for your presentation. It was very enlightening. I just have a question about if there were ever any conflicts during the parties, and if perhaps opposing groups were ever concerned about the effects of the Communist Party having those kind of gatherings and stuff, and even if those conflicts were ever as serious as just stopping the party altogether. Stopping the party altogether from happening, preventing the party from happening. That's it. Thank you. That's the question.
That's the question.
Yes. Yes. If there were ever any conflicts during the parties that prevented them from happening in a year or at some point during the parties.
Sorry.
If there were ever any conflicts during
Any
the parties,
conflicts?
yes, any conflicts that prevented the parties from happening. So if a group that opposed the Communist Party perhaps organized a gathering to prevent the party from happening, or if for some reason the parties could never happen at some point. So no conflicts.
Well, now I think that the experience is going on normally, but we haven't, in any case, I must use the microphone. Communist Party doesn't exist yet, of course, and so we haven't anything. In the past, there was a competition probably between Communist Festival and Festival of other parties, but I don't think that there was contest in the case of absolutely contest. Thank you.
So I think we at 6 we already passed. We have another kind of meeting, but I think we still have place for another question. A last one. Maybe you want to take it to.
I have a question for Maria.
She's here.
Ciao. Just one thing. In Italiano?
Perhaps in English for the others, and in Italian for me.
Very simple. We know that the symposium happens after the dinner. What do we know about drinking in the dinner? That's the question. It's very simple. Español.
Sí, todo. La respuesta también es muy sencilla, poco.
We know little.
Es poco lo que se sabe sobre el consumo de bebida en la primera parte, sobre todo porque se conoce mal esa primera parte. Tenemos el banquete de Ateneo de Naucratis, pero es un banquete muy estilizado, en el que los participantes en realidad lo que hacen son casi catálogos de los distintos alimentos. Se habla de la comida, pero se habla poco de la bebida. Hay un catálogo de vinos, pero no se habla del consumo de vinos en esa parte. Seguramente beberían, porque comer sin beber de vez en cuando un trago es difícil, pero no es lo más importante. Entonces, es secundario. El vino es importante en la segunda parte.
Ma tu pensi che bevevano anche prima?
Sí, pero sí. Cuestión fisiológica.
I think we can, as we enter this dynamic, and Professor Maria Soler was introduced. If you do you have any more question, maybe to Professor Maria or to Professor Stefano? Or okay, I'm having this silence. We abolish that penalty in Scotland. So see you tomorrow.